The moon rose slowly that night, round and bright, pouring silver light over the small village of Amira like a silent witness that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. Dogs stopped barking. Crickets grew louder. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere between fear and beauty, the full moon climbed higher, and with it came the beginning of the end for Amara. Amara had always believed friendship was sacred. She believed it with the kind of innocence that only came from a heart that had never learned to doubt. She laughed freely, trusted deeply, and shared her dreams like they were communal property. In a village where envy grew quietly behind smiles, that kind of openness was dangerous. She was 23, graceful in a way that turned heads without effort. Her skin glowed like warm honey. Her eyes always carried hope, and her voice had a softness that made people feel seen. But it wasn't just her beauty that unsettled others. It was her rising light. Amara had recently started working at a small tailoring shop in the neighboring town. It wasn't much, but it was more than most girls her age had. She saved every coin carefully, dreaming of opening her own shop someday. People had begun to notice. Elders praised her discipline. Mothers pointed her out to their sons. Even the village chief had once said she would go far. Those words were sweet to Amara, but they were poison to others. Her closest friends, Ngozi, Bizi, and Kemi, had grown up with her. They fetched water together, shared secrets under mango trees, and promised each other loyalty that was supposed to last a lifetime. They laughed together in public and whispered together in private. But lately, their whispers had changed. It started subtly. Ngozi began to compliment Amara with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. Bizi stopped celebrating Amara's small achievements and instead changed the subject. Kemi, once her loudest supporter, grew unusually quiet whenever Amara spoke about her dreams. Amara noticed, but she brushed it aside. She told herself everyone had worries. She told herself love did not always sound loud. She was wrong. That evening, the girls gathered in Ngozi's compound, as they often did. The full moon hung low and heavy, casting long shadows that stretched and twisted like restless spirits. The air felt strange, thick, charged, uneasy. "Tonight feels special," Kemi said, forcing a laugh. "Yes," Ngozi replied, her eyes gleaming in the moonlight. "The full moon is powerful." Amara smiled. "You and your stories. It's just the moon." Bizi exchanged a glance with Ngozi. A silent understanding passed between them, sharp and cold. They had planned this. Ngozi poured palm wine into wooden cups, her hands steady despite the storm inside her chest. For months, jealousy had eaten at her like termites in dry wood. Amara was moving forward while they remained stuck. Men noticed Amara first. Opportunities found Amara. Praise followed Amara. And tonight, under the full moon, they were done watching. "Drink," Ngozi said sweetly, handing Amara a cup. Amara hesitated. Something in Ngozi's voice felt unfamiliar. But then she laughed at herself. These were her friends, her sisters. She drank. The taste was slightly bitter, but palm wine often was. Amara handed the cup back and continued chatting, unaware that her fate had just shifted. Minutes passed. Then her head began to feel light. "Do you feel hot?" she asked, touching her forehead. Bizi smiled. "Maybe it's the moon." Amara stood up slowly, but the ground tilted beneath her feet. Her vision blurred, and the laughter around her sounded distant, distorted. "I think I should go home," she murmured. Ngozi stood too quickly. "No, stay. You'll be fine." Amara took a step and nearly fell. That was when fear crept into her chest. She looked at their faces, really looked, and what she saw froze her blood. No concern, no panic, only anticipation. "What did you put in that drink?" Amara whispered. The moonlight revealed Ngozi's smile, sharp and unkind. "Relax, Amara. Tonight is about truth." Before Amara could scream, the world spun violently. The ground rushed up to meet her, and darkness swallowed her whole as the full moon watched in silence. Far away, an owl hooted, and in that moment, under the glowing eye of the moon, three friends crossed a line they could never return from. Amara's betrayal had begun. When Amara opened her eyes, the first thing she noticed was the smell: damp earth, old leaves, and something bitter like burnt herbs. Her head throbbed, as if a drum had been beaten inside it. She tried to move, but pain shot through her wrists. That was when panic fully woke her. Her hands were tied. Rough rope dug into her skin, binding her wrists behind her back. Her ankles were also secured, forcing her into an awkward position on the cold ground. The moonlight filtered through thick trees above her, flickering as leaves swayed. She wasn't in the village anymore. She was in the forest, the sacred forest. Every child in Amura grew up knowing its name, but never dared to enter it after sunset. It was said to be a place where spirits listened more than they spoke, where secrets sank into the soil and never came back. And on full moon nights, elders warned, the forest demanded offerings. Amara's breath came out in shallow gasps. "No, no, no," she whispered, her voice cracking. "This isn't happening." Footsteps crunched nearby. Ngozi stepped into the moonlight first, her face unreadable. Behind her came Beezy and Kemi, carrying a small clay pot and a bundle of leaves tied with red thread. They looked different out here, harder, older, stripped of the softness they wore in daylight. "Untie me," Amara begged, tears sliding down her temples into the dirt. "Please. Whatever I did, I'm sorry." Ngozi laughed quietly. "You did nothing. That's the problem." Beezy crouched down, placing the clay pot on the ground. Inside it was a thick, dark paste that smelled like rot and iron. "You've always had everything without trying," she said. "People love you. Luck follows you. Even your dreams are too loud. I shared everything with you," Amara cried. "I never looked down on you. I never." "Exactly," Kemi snapped, her voice trembling with years of swallowed resentment. "You didn't even know you were hurting us. That's how high you stand." The truth hit Amara harder than the ropes. This wasn't about a mistake. It was about who she was. Ngozi stepped closer, her shadow stretching long across Amara's body. "Do you know what they say about full moon nights?" she asked calmly. "They say if you take what shines too bright and dim it, the light can be shared." Amara shook her head violently. "You're talking nonsense. Please, let's go home. This is madness." But Beezy had already begun arranging the leaves in a circle around her. Each movement was deliberate, rehearsed. This wasn't a sudden act. This was a plan that had lived in their hearts for a long time. "You'll be fine," Ngozi said softly, though her eyes were cold. "By morning, no one will envy you anymore." Kemi hesitated then. Her hands trembled as she held the red thread. For a moment, guilt flickered across her face. "What if something goes wrong?" she whispered. Ngozi's voice hardened. "Nothing will go wrong. We're not killing her. We're just changing her path." Amara screamed. The sound tore through the forest, raw and desperate, but the trees swallowed it whole. Ngozi pressed a hand over Amara's mouth while Beezy smeared the dark paste across Amara's forehead and chest. It burned like fire. "Stop, please. I trusted you." Amara sobbed into Ngozi's palm. Ngozi leaned down, her lips close to Amara's ear. "That was your mistake." They began to chant, low, rhythmic words Amara had never heard but somehow understood were not meant for human ears. The moonlight intensified, bathing the clearing in an unnatural glow. The air grew heavy, pressing down on Amara's chest until breathing became difficult. Her body convulsed. Pain tore through her veins like lightning. Memories flashed behind her eyes, her childhood laughter, her mother's smile, her dreams of independence, flickering like fragile candles in a storm. Then suddenly silence. The chanting stopped. The forest exhaled. Amara lay still, her body limp, eyes half open but unfocused. Kemi fell to her knees. Is she dead?" Beezy touched Amara's neck, then pulled back quickly. "She's alive." Ngozi stared down at her, something like satisfaction twisting her lips. "Good. That's enough." They untied her ankles but left her wrists bound, then dragged her deeper into the forest until they reached a narrow path that led toward the outskirts of the village. Without another word, they left her there, dirty, disoriented, and broken, before disappearing into the trees like shadows. Hours later, as dawn threatened the sky, Amara stirred. Her body felt wrong, heavy. empty, like something precious had been scooped out of her and buried somewhere she could never reach. When she finally managed to sit up, a sharp pain shot through her chest, followed by a wave of nausea. She crawled out of the forest just as early farmers began heading to their fields. The screams came quickly. By the time the sun rose, the village was buzzing with rumors. Someone claimed Amara had been seen naked in the sacred forest. Someone else said she had gone mad and tried to summon spirits. By noon, the story had grown teeth. Amara was no longer the village's golden girl. She was a disgrace. And Ngozi, Bizi, and Kemi stood among the crowd, shaking their heads in false pity, watching as the full weight of their betrayal crushed the life they had envied. But none of them noticed the way Amara's eyes had changed. The light in them was dimmer, but something darker had taken its place. And the moon, fading in the morning sky, had not finished collecting its debt. By midday, Amara's name no longer sounded like it once did when spoken in the village. It used to carry warmth, pride, and promise. Now it dragged through mouths like something bitter. She stood in her mother's compound, wrapped in a faded wrapper, while people gathered outside the gate as though watching a spectacle. Women whispered behind their palms. Men shook their heads slowly, disappointment painted across their faces. Children stared without understanding, absorbing cruelty the way soil absorbs rain. Her mother, Mama Ifyinanya, had not spoken a word since Amara was brought home at dawn. She had simply stared at her daughter's bruised wrists, the strange markings on her chest, and the emptiness in her eyes. That silence hurt Amara more than the whispers outside. "What happened to her?" one woman asked loudly, not bothering to lower her voice. "I heard she went to the sacred forest by herself," another replied. "Who does that and remains normal?" Pride," someone muttered. "Too much pride attracts spirits." Amara wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them the truth, that she had been betrayed, poisoned, dragged like an animal into the forest by the very people standing among them now. But her tongue felt heavy, her thoughts slow and tangled, as if her mind was moving through thick mud. Every time she tried to speak, her chest tightened painfully. Ngozi arrived later that afternoon, wearing concern like a carefully chosen cloth. Bizi and Kemi followed behind her, their faces drawn, eyes lowered. "We heard what happened," Ngozi said softly, stepping into the compound. "We were so worried." Amara looked up at them. For a moment, the world sharpened. She saw it clearly then, the lie in Ngozi's eyes, the fear behind Bizi's pity, the guilt shaking inside Kemi like a trapped bird. Her heart pounded violently, and suddenly, without understanding why, Amara felt something else beneath the pain. A pull, a strange awareness. Ngozi's voice sounded far away as she continued talking. "People are saying many things. We just want to help." Amara's lips parted. Words trembled at the edge of her mouth. But before she could speak, a sharp image flashed through her mind. Ngozi kneeling in the forest, smearing the dark paste, smiling as she whispered cruel words. Amara gasped and clutched her chest. "What's wrong with her?" Bizi asked quickly, stepping back. Mama Ifyinanya rushed forward, holding Amara. "Leave," she said hoarsely. "All of you, leave my daughter alone." As the three friends retreated, Amara's eyes followed them. And as they crossed the threshold of the compound, Ngozi stumbled. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable. Her foot caught on nothing. She fell hard, spilling to the ground as the crowd gasped. Amara froze. Ngozi had always been sure-footed. That night, Amara lay awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, the forest returned. The chanting, the burning paste, the moon watching without mercy. But something else came too. Voices. Not loud, not clear, just whispers brushing the edges of her thoughts like fingers testing a door. She felt them strongest whenever anger stirred inside her, whenever her mind returned to betrayal. At some point, exhaustion pulled her into sleep. She dreamed of the moon again, but this time it spoke. Not in words, in understanding. When she woke, her body ached less, but her heart felt heavier. Mama Ifyinanya sat beside her, eyes red from crying. "The elders want to see you," her mother said quietly. "They say you must explain yourself." The gathering took place under the ancient Iroko tree. The elders sat in a line, faces stern. Villagers crowded around, eager for answers, eager for judgment. "Amara," the eldest said, tapping his staff on the ground. "You were found near the sacred forest at dawn. Tell us why." Her mouth went dry. She opened her lips, and pain exploded in her chest. The air left her lungs, as if something inside her rejected the truth. She doubled over, gasping, clutching at her wrapper. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "She can't even speak," someone said. "A sign," another replied. "The spirits have touched her." Ngozi watched from the crowd, her face carefully blank. But inside, fear was beginning to bloom. Since the ritual, small things had gone wrong. She had tripped twice. Her palm wine had turned sour overnight. And now, watching Amara writhe in pain, something cold crawled up her spine. The eldest elder spoke again. "Until the truth is known, Amara is forbidden from leaving the village. She will remain under watch." The decision fell like a stone. That night, the whispers returned stronger. This time, Amara listened. Images flooded her mind, threads connecting people glowing faintly. Some threads were bright, steady. Others were dark and tangled. When she thought of Ngozi, Bizi, and Kemi, their threads pulsed violently, humming with the same energy that burned her chest. Fear mingled with understanding. Whatever they had done to her under the full moon had not simply dimmed her light. It had opened something else, and was waking up. The changes did not arrive loudly. They crept in, quiet and patient, the way rot spreads inside a fruit long before the skin breaks. Amara noticed them first in small, unsettling ways. When someone whispered her name with malice, her chest tightened, and the person would suddenly cough, clutching their throat as if air had become thick. When children mocked her behind her back, they tripped over their own feet moments later, crying out in confusion. None of it was dramatic enough to accuse her of anything, yet too consistent to be coincidence. She stayed mostly indoors, watching the world through the thin veil of her window. Mama Ifeanyi avoided her eyes now, not out of hatred, but fear. A mother could sense when her child was changing into something she did not understand. At night, the whispers guided Amara. They no longer felt foreign. They felt intimate. They showed her truths people buried deep. The bitterness in a neighbor's heart. The secret jealousy of a cousin. The quiet cruelty wrapped inside polite smiles. It was overwhelming, like suddenly hearing every heartbeat in a crowded room. But the strongest pull always came from the three threads that throbbed with unrest. Ngozi, Bizi, and Kemi. Ngozi had stopped sleeping well. Each night, she dreamed of the forest closing in on her, roots wrapping around her legs while the moon stared without blinking. She woke with scratches on her arms she could not explain. Her once confident laughter now sounded strained. Bizi's tailoring work began to fail. Her needle pricked her fingers constantly, drawing blood that stained her fabrics. Customers complained. Money slipped through her hands like water. She felt watched, even when alone. Kemi fared the worst. Guilt gnawed at her relentlessly. She began hearing chanting in her dreams, the same words spoken in the forest. Only now they sounded accusing. She tried to pray, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Amara's face, pale and bound, staring at her with silent disbelief. The village noticed a shift. "Something is wrong," people murmured. Ever since that full moon night, they began to connect dots. One evening, as Amara sat alone in the courtyard, the whispers sharpened suddenly, urgent. Her heart raced. Without understanding why, she stood and walked toward the path leading to the forest. Her feet moved on their own. The moon was not full, but it glowed brightly enough to light her way. The forest welcomed her this time. The air felt familiar, almost warm. She reached the clearing where it had all begun. The ground trembled lightly beneath her. A presence rose, not visible, not physical, but undeniable. Knowledge poured into her like water into a cracked pot. The ritual had not been meant for her. It was supposed to transfer fortune, to siphon her rising light and scatter it among those who envied her. But jealousy had tainted their intent. They had acted out of spite, not balance. And the forest, which demanded honesty above all things, had twisted their desire. Instead of taking her light, it had bound her to it. Amara fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. The forest did not answer with comfort. It answered with truth. Every act demanded consequence. Power taken unjustly must be returned, through pain, through loss, through exposure. And those who called upon the forest under false intent would pay, slowly and publicly. When Amara returned home before dawn, her eyes carried a new stillness. The next day, Ngozi collapsed in the marketplace, screaming that roots were crawling under her skin. Beezy fainted during a customer's fitting, whispering Amara's name over and over. Kemi disappeared entirely. Panic spread. Elders gathered again, fear cracking their authority. Whispers grew louder, more dangerous. "It's her," someone said. "The girl from the forest." That night, Mama Ifyinanya confronted her daughter, tears streaming freely. "What did they do to you?" Amara looked at her mother for a long time before answering. When she spoke, her voice was calm, steady, nothing like the broken girl who had returned from the forest. "They tried to ruin me," she said softly. "But they woke something instead." Outside, the moon rose higher, and in 3 different homes across Amura, 3 women screamed as the full weight of their betrayal began to descend. Kemi returned to the village at dawn, barefoot and shaking, her wrapper torn and stained with mud. She walked straight into the center of Amura like someone who had already accepted her fate. By the time people noticed her, a crowd had already formed. Her eyes were hollow. Her lips moved soundlessly at first, as if she were rehearsing words that refused to come out. "I can't sleep anymore," she finally cried, falling to her knees. "I can't close my eyes without seeing it." The elders were summoned at once. Ngozi was dragged, and soon after, her once proud posture replaced by a hunched, trembling frame. Beezy followed, her fingers wrapped in bloody cloth. The full moon was 2 nights away. The timing alone sent a chill through the gathering. Kemi lifted her head and pointed, not accusingly, but brokenly. "We did it," she said. "We took her to the forest. We used her." The crowd erupted. Mama Ifyinanya screamed. Women gasped. Men shouted. The elders pounded their staffs on the ground, demanding silence. Kemi sobbed uncontrollably as the truth spilled out. The drug palm wine, the ropes, the chant, the lie they had planned to spread so Amara would be disgraced and abandoned. With every word, Ngozi shrank further into herself. It was not meant to harm her. Ngozi suddenly screamed, desperation cracking her voice. "We just wanted to share her luck." The eldest elder rose slowly, his face pale. "You do not share what is not yours," he said, "and you do not call the forest with envy in your hearts." All eyes turned to Amara as she was brought forward. She walked calmly, her presence silencing the murmurs. She looked the same face, same body, but something about her made people avert their eyes. Not fear, reverence. "Is it true?" the elder asked her gently. "Did they take you?" Amara nodded once. "Did you curse them?" Silence stretched. "I did nothing," Amara said. The forest listens to truth. It answered theirs. The wind shifted suddenly, strong and cold. Leaves rustled violently. Somewhere deep in the trees, something groaned. The eldest elder closed his eyes. "The forest has accepted you," he said quietly, "and it is angry." That night, the full moon rose red. Ngozi's screams echoed first. She was found clawing at the earth behind her house, begging invisible roots to let her go. Beezy lost the use of her hands, her fingers locking painfully into useless shapes. Kemi wandered toward the forest again, sobbing apologies into the darkness. Amara watched from her doorway, tears slipping silently down her face. "I don't want this," she whispered. The whispers answered, not cruelly but firmly. "Justice is not chosen. It arrives." At dawn, the elders declared a cleansing. The truth was spoken openly. Amara's name was restored, but it came with distance. People no longer mock her, but they no longer came close either. Ngozi and Beezy were banished from Amura before the next moonrise. Kemi was taken by the elders into the forest to atone. She never returned. Amara left the village shortly after. Years later, travelers would speak of a woman who walked between villages, helping the broken and protecting the wronged. They said she glowed faintly under moonlight, not with beauty, but with understanding. And when the full moon rose, those who carried envy in their hearts felt uneasy, like the forest was watching. Because some betrayals do not end with forgiveness. They end with balance. Amara did not leave Amira immediately, even though everyone expected her to. The village had changed, but so had she. Where fear once lived in her chest, there was now a quiet firmness, like a tree that had grown roots too deep to be shaken. People avoided her path. Conversations stopped when she approached. Doors closed gently, not slammed. Respect mixed with unease. They no longer called her cursed. They called her the girl the forest touched. At night, she dreamed of paths branching endlessly, each one tied to a choice someone else had made. She could feel them now, decisions, intentions, secrets. They hummed beneath the skin of the world. One evening, as the moon began its slow rise again, Amara felt a sharp pull in her chest. Stronger than before. Urgent. Someone was lying. Not a harmless lie. A dangerous one. She followed the pull to the edge of the village, where the elders' huts stood in quiet authority. Voices drifted through the air, low, tense, deliberate. They must never know the full truth, one elder said. The forest chose her, another replied, uneasily. Hiding it may anger it further. Amara stood frozen in the shadows as understanding washed over her. The elders had known more than they admitted. They had sensed what the ritual would awaken, long before Ngozi and the others acted. And instead of protecting her, they had waited, curious, cautious, afraid. The lie burned inside her chest. Her presence shifted the air. Inside the hut, a lamp flickered violently. What was that? One elder asked. Before they could react, Amara stepped forward into the light. Silence crashed down. You knew, she said calmly. You felt it, and you let it happen. The eldest elder met her gaze, his shoulders sagging with age and truth. We fear the forest's will, he said. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. Amara's voice did not rise. And some truths, once buried, rot. That night, the elders told the village everything. The ancient pacts, the rare bond between human and forest, the reason full moon rituals were forbidden without pure intent. Fear swept through Mira like wildfire. By morning, people began leaving offerings at Amara's door. Not worship, but apology. She did not accept them. Instead, she packed her few belongings and left before sunrise. The road beyond Amira was long and unfamiliar. Villages blurred into one another. Faces changed, but envy, fear, and betrayal followed everywhere, wearing different names. Amara helped where she could. She warned people when darkness hid behind smiles. Sometimes she arrived too late. Sometimes she did not interfere at all. The forest had taught her restraint as much as power. Years passed. Then, one night, under another full moon, she felt a presence she had not felt in a long time. Weak, broken, familiar. Ngozi. She was found in a distant town, thin as a shadow, her once sharp eyes dulled by suffering. Her life had collapsed piece by piece, banishment, illness, loneliness. The forest had not rushed her punishment. It had let her live with it. When Ngozi saw Amara, she fell to the ground. I see it now, she sobbed. I see what I did. Amara looked down at her, not with hatred, but clarity. Do you? She asked quietly. The moon hung above them, patient as ever. And for the first time since that night in the forest, Amara faced the hardest question of all, whether balance always required pain, or whether mercy had a place in justice. Ngozi's body shook as she knelt in the dust, her forehead pressed to the ground like someone begging the earth itself to forgive her. The moonlight painted her thin frame in pale silver, revealing how much life had been stripped away from her since the night of betrayal. Amara stood still. For a long moment, she felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just the quiet weight of memory. The ropes biting into her wrists, the burning paste, the laughter that followed her screams. The forest did not whisper now. It waited. I lost everything, Ngozi cried. My health, my home, my mind. I wake up every night hearing your voice. Please end it, or forgive me. I can't live like this anymore. Amara closed her eyes, and suddenly, she was back there again. Not as a victim this time, but as a witness. She saw the ritual clearly, the intent behind it, the envy that twisted the words, the moment the forest chose consequence over silence. She also saw something else she had never noticed before. Fear. Ngozi had been afraid of being small, afraid of being forgotten, afraid that the world had chosen someone else and left her behind. That fear did not excuse betrayal, but it explained it. Amara knelt slowly, bringing herself to Ngozi's level. Do you know what the forest took from me? She asked quietly. Ngozi shook her head, tears soaking the dust. It took my innocence, Amara said. Not my light, not my future, just a part of me that believed everyone meant well. She lifted Ngozi's chin gently. Their eyes met. You wanted my path, Amara continued. But paths are not stolen. They are walked. The air shifted. The moon brightened, pulsing once like a living heart. Ngozi gasped as the pressure she had carried for years suddenly loosened. Not gone, but lighter, manageable. The punishment did not disappear, but softened. Amara stood. This is mercy, she said, not freedom. You will live with what you did, but you will live. Ngozi collapsed, sobbing, not in terror this time, but relief. Amara turned away and walked on. As dawn approached, she felt something change inside her. A thread loosening, a burden easing. The forest whispered then, not demanding, not warning. Balanced. Years passed. Stories spread across regions of a woman who appeared when injustice tipped too far, when envy threatened to destroy what it could not become. Some called her a guardian. Others called her a curse. None knew her name for certain. But under every full moon, people checked their hearts more carefully, because the forest was listening. And once, long ago, a girl betrayed by her friends had learned that true power was not revenge. It was choosing what kind of ending the world deserved.